For the past few years, we've all been completely fascinated by AI that can chat, write, and whip up some pretty amazing images. But you know what? The ground is shifting right under our feet. We're moving from an AI that just suggests things to an AI that actually does them. We're talking about building autonomous systems. And if you're a product manager, listen up, because this changes absolutely everything.
And this right here, this quote is everything. This is the voice of your user today. They're just so tired of being the human glue in the middle, clicking through 5 different screens just to do something an AI told them to do. They want to delegate the goal, the outcome, and trust that the system is going to handle the rest. This one single desire is the engine driving this entire move to autonomous AI. So to really wrap our heads around this new world, we gotta start with the smallest, most basic unit, the AI agent. And the best way to think about an agent isn't as some chunk of code, but as an autonomous worker, like an individual on a digital assembly line, ready and waiting to get a job done.
Now, this distinction is absolutely crucial. An AI agent isn't something you tell what to do step by step. You don't say, okay, first click this button, then copy that text. No, instead, you give it an outcome. You say, hey, review all these new customer support tickets, figure out how urgent they are, and then assign them to the right team. The agent then figures out the how all by itself.
So how in the world does it pull this off? Well, it runs on this continuous cycle, this loop. First, it thinks. It looks at the goal and decides on a first step. Then it acts. Maybe it calls an API or browses a website. Next, it observes what happened as a result of that action. And finally, based on that new information, it adjusts its plan and starts the whole loop all over again. It's this simple, relentless cycle that is the very engine of its autonomy.
So what really makes an agent an agent? It pretty much boils down to 5 core things. You've got to start with a really clear, defined goal. Then it needs the ability to reason and make its own decisions. And this is a big one. It must be able to use tools. That's how it actually interacts with the world. It needs memory, both short-term and long-term, to learn and keep track of what's going on. And of course, it has to operate in that think, act, observe, adjust loop. You check all 5 of those boxes, you're building an agent.
All right, so we have our individual worker. But what happens when the job is just too big or way too complex for just one? Well, you don't try to build some kind of superhero agent that does everything. No, you build a team. And this is where we level up from a single agent to a whole system we call Agentic AI.
Now, Agentic AI, it isn't a specific piece of technology you can just go buy. It's really a design philosophy. It's the blueprint for creating a system where you have multiple, specialized agents that can all coordinate with each other. Just imagine one agent that's an expert at research, another that's a genius at data analysis, and a third that's amazing at drafting communications. They work together, passing tasks back and forth. This is the huge leap from thinking of AI as a feature to architecting AI as a core capability.
So this brings you, as a product manager, to a really critical choice. Do you build one super agent to do everything, or do you build a team of specialists? On one hand, a single agent is way simpler and cheaper to build, and it's perfect for tasks that are pretty well defined. But on the other hand, a multi-agent system, that team of specialists, it allows for much more sophisticated problem solving and can do things in parallel. The key here is probably to start simple. Validate a single agent workflow, and then scale up to a team when the complexity really demands it.
Okay, so we have our workers, the agents. We have our operating model, our team playbook, that's Agentic AI. But what about the factory floor itself? I mean, if every single agent connects to its tools with some custom brittle wiring, you just get chaos. It's not scalable, it's not secure, and believe me, it is a nightmare to maintain. You need standardized infrastructure.
And that is the exact problem that the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, is designed to solve. The best way to think about it is like universal plumbing. MCP acts as a standard set of pipes and connectors for all your AI agents. It's a formal API contract that allows any agent to plug into any tool, access any data, and understand any piece of context in a totally consistent, predictable way. And you can just see the difference this makes, right? Before, a standard like MCP, every tool integration is this fragile, custom-built project. Security is just a patchwork of one-off solutions. But with MCP, tools become plug-and-play. Security, permissions, governance, all of that can be applied systematically across the entire factory floor. And that's what makes your system not just powerful, but truly enterprise-ready.
So let's just tie this whole mental model together. It's pretty simple. The AI agent is your individual worker. Agentic AI is the operating model. It's the way your team of workers collaborates. And MCP is the infrastructure, that standardized factory floor that allows them all to work together safely and at a massive scale. Worker, team, factory. Got it?
Okay, now that we have the framework, let's get practical. Building these systems isn't about chasing some cool demo. It's about shipping real, durable, trustworthy products. And that all starts with asking a totally different set of questions than what we're used to. This is the playbook. First question, and this is arguably the most important one. What decisions is the AI actually allowed to make on its own? You have to explicitly define these boundaries. And this isn't a suggestion. It needs to be documented, debated, and then enforced with real technical guardrails. This line right here separates an amazing assistant from a huge potential liability.
Now, the flip side of that is just as critical. You have to identify where human judgment is completely non-negotiable. This could be for compliance reasons, for tricky ethical decisions, or for really high-stakes strategic calls. The product challenge then becomes designing a seamless workflow, a clean off-ramp for the AI, and an intuitive on-ramp for a human to step in and approve things.
Let's be crystal clear. Your agent will make mistakes. It is going to happen, so you have to design for it from day one. How do users even know an error happened? How easy is it to undo an action? What's the rollback plan? The big takeaway here is that failure recovery is not some edge case. It is a core part of the user experience for any autonomous system.
Trust is earned through transparency. It's that simple. If your autonomous system is just a black box, your users will never, ever truly rely on it for important work. You have to build in explainability from the very start. Things like clear audit logs, reasoning traces, simple summaries of what actions were taken. Think of it this way. Explainability isn't just a nice-to-have feature, it is the absolute foundation for user adoption.
These systems are not fire and forget. They have real operational costs, tokens, compute time, so you need budgets and constant monitoring. And you have to watch out for something called drift. That's when the model's performance slowly gets worse over time as the data or user behavior changes. Let me tell you, autonomy without observability isn't a product. It's an expensive, unpredictable hobby. And finally, you have to think beyond just your first agent. Are you building a one-off feature or are you building a platform for autonomy? A really well-designed system makes building the second agent 10 times easier than the first one. You're not just building a product, you're building the scaffolding for a whole new class of capabilities. And that's really the big takeaway here. The whole paradigm is shifting. We're moving away from building tools that users operate, and we're moving towards building autonomous teams that users direct and manage. It requires a fundamental change in how we think about product design, user experience, and risk. So the only question left is, are you ready for it?